today is forgiveness. And do you have, like, why are you here? Why'd you pick this one to come to, show up to?
Well, it just resonated with me.
Yeah.
I've been feeling like sometimes things that happened in the past kind of haunt you in a way, and you just think, I need to move on from that. You need to forgive yourself, I think was something you said, as well as forgiving other people. So
Yeah.
it's just something that might be a theme for 2020 because you're about the third thing that I read that, and I thought, well, why is this forgiveness theme resonating so much in the first 6 months of the year? So that's why I'm
Uh,
here. It's like,
wow.
ooh.
There's a message there.
Mm-hmm.
Good notice. Actually, sometimes we don't pay attention to those thoughts. So that's a good notice. Hi, Yukimi. Nice to see you. Yukimi's in New York. She's an amazing piano teacher as well as a podcaster. So if you've ever wanted to do a
Wow.
podcast, she's an amazing teacher. I'm about to launch my podcast probably next month. Um, yeah. So it's all coming together. Once the new website is finished, then the podcast will launch also. So that's all in the works. Yeah. Thanks to Yukimi. Yeah. Teresa, you could do a podcast. You're muted. Oh, still muted. Hello, Laura.
Hey, what a miracle. I just jumped on. Last time it took me at least 15 minutes to get on. I don't know why, but miracle today.
There you go. Something you needed to hear then, Laura.
Yeah. Thanks for sending the tape for the prep for today in the email.
Yeah, I'm trying to stay on top of it, trying to make this work for everybody. And I'm trying to work out systems. So my word, Sharon, you were talking about this stuff keeps coming up for you. So what keeps coming up for me is systems and making my life easier in getting all of this work out. So mine is systems. So thank you, Laura Lee, for noticing that because I'm beginning to connect the dots here. And it's all beginning to make sense to me. I'm trying some new platforms, some new systems, and things seem to be working out good. So I'm glad that's it. So does anybody, Sharon just mentioned about forgiveness, these old stories that keep creeping up. Does anybody else have anything that they want to share about forgiveness, particularly towards yourself? That's a big one. We often will, look outside and go, I have to forgive that person, which is also extremely important. However, it's the relationship that we have with ourselves that
Mm-hmm.
can come and bite us in the ass. Yeah, go ahead, Laura.
Oh, hang on just a second.
Okay.
I remember a while ago, last October, you said that, like, if you don't forgive somebody, they're off in Hawaii and you're still beating yourself up on it or something. And then so that's so true, and so anyhow, it comes back to yourself, forgiving yourself. I don't know, but like in yoga, they take it a little bit further and say it's a self-compassion, you're taking care of yourself when you're forgiving yourself. But the other girl said the shadow, it's really hard. It's just so hard. But anyhow, they're on a vacation and we are not.
No, that is so true. That is so true. We spend so much time in our head that hi, Rosemary.
Hi.
We spend so much time in our head that we, in resentment, anger, rage, sorrow. There's a lot of sorrow in around forgiveness, guilt, that we're the ones that are heavy when everyone else is walking around in life. I think too that a lot of this comes from the expectations that we place on other people, as well as the expectations that we put on ourselves. But a lot of times it's expectations of other people that we have that are going to set us off on that mindset of judgment, criticism, holding others to a level that they don't even know about, essentially. So, I come up with these ideas. I have a whole list of topics to talk about for the next 52 weeks because I had to figure that out, right? I had to put this in a system. But I read a lot, and things that resonate with me when I'm reading are how I come up with some of these topics. And I just recently read a book by Emma Gannon called Sabotage. And it was brilliant. It's a very short book, but she's such a real life writer, she's just like pouring her heart out on the page. And how she talked about it was in taking a look at rage and resentment and the sorrow and self-sabotaging these negative thoughts that we have about ourselves, and look at it in compartments, and to know that forgiving yourself isn't something that's going to happen overnight. Like you're not going to leave this time with us together and be like, okay, I'm all done. This is great. I'm all done forgiving. These thoughts they have emotions tied to them that are actual, like, physical things that will show up in our bodies. Interestingly enough, one of my friends here, and I think I might have mentioned this last week, one of my friends in Warsaw is going through ovarian cancer, and she is 100% positive that it came from the anger and the resentment that she has held toward her husband and herself, for not going down the path that she had planned for herself. So she married a man that her husband, that her mother thought that was good for her. And she gave up her career. And in giving up her career, something that she loved, she held on to that, like I gave that up for you, and ended up holding him accountable for something that he really didn't know or understand that he was responsible for. And that she also played a part in that by not communicating, which is what we women don't often do, because we're nurturers more than we are communicators of our needs, wants, and desires. And that she wasn't being true to herself. So all those feelings that she had about, can I be a mother and also have a career? Because she wasn't shown that by her mother, because her mother was a stay-at-home mom. then she didn't feel that that was right for her. So then she held her mother accountable for something that her mother didn't even know was something that she was accountable for. So forgiveness has so many arms, to it. But if you take that all back and begin to forgive yourself for the life that you think you didn't lead, or the things that didn't happen for you, if you begin to forgive yourself for that, for those things, then these thoughts, you'll actually, if you can identify where you're holding all this power and claiming it to be true, if you can figure out in your body where this shows up, you have an opportunity to pay attention to it, ask it questions, because I truly believe that all of these thoughts that we have stuffed down are only lessons. They're only things that want to teach us something. And they're going to keep showing up until we say, I see you, I hear you, I certainly feel you. Now, what is it that you're trying to tell me? What is it that you're trying to show me? And I often talk about flipping the script. I have actually a page. I'll send out the link in the recording. You don't need the paper, but I like pretty things, so I made it. It's called Flip the Script, whereas you put the thought that you have about yourself on the left side. You just make a T on a piece of paper. You put the thoughts that you have about yourself on the left side. These things that you can't seem to get over, forgive yourself for. The thoughts that keep creeping up of, why did you do that? Why didn't you say that? I could write a book about that, about all the times in my life where I didn't say something, or I said something that might have been inappropriate for the person that I was with. I have so many of these stories, life-changing stories, hurtful stories, devastating stories. But when I look at those stories and go, those things, for instance, my first divorce happened, let's see, my oldest daughter is 47 this July. So 42 years ago, I was divorced. And during the court proceedings, I was so nervous that I was speechless. Now, does that mean that I need to hold on to that forever? I'm not the same person I was back then. There's not a cell in my body that's the same. Every 7 years, our cells, our body builds new cells. So does that mean that I need to hold on to that story? I need to forgive myself. I need to, I believe one of the best ways to forgive yourself is to write yourself a letter, and write yourself a letter that is never ending. And as the pages, as you're done with pages, I like to burn my pages so I can release it. So it's like I can visually see these thoughts being released. It doesn't mean that I still don't have them, but they now don't have power over me. I can now be present with my girls, where before, after my divorce, I was filled with shame and embarrassment for years. Didn't think that I was lovable because I couldn't open my mouth in that courtroom. That made me unlovable. So where did something happen to you that you are holding yourself accountable for something when at the time that whatever happened is gone? You're gone. You know different things now. You can't, how can you possibly hold yourself accountable for something that at that time was either out of your control or because of the place that you were at in your life, you were either had no self-esteem, thought that you were less than, thought that you didn't deserve it, thought that that's for someone else. Those were the thoughts that you might have had then. That doesn't mean that those thoughts need to transfer and hold on to you where you are right now in your life. But there are things that you need, that you are in control of. And what you are in control of is taking a look at these thoughts, figuring out where they are in your body, where they show up. You might, for instance, I was on the phone the other day with a naturopath, and he was like, so where is all this constipation coming from? What are you holding on to? He goes, what are you holding on to, Mary? You need to let it go. I thought, holy shit. Literally. So what are you holding on to that doesn't serve you? It doesn't serve you. And then take a look at that and just write on the other side of the T, the thought that you should be having now about that, the forgiveness that you should have about that instance, that story, what somebody said, what you might have done, what.
Can I ask something?
Yes.
Why did you say the thought that you should have had? I mean,
the thought that you should have now.
Actually, but, well, why should you have any thought like that now? I mean, I don't quite get the should bit. How do you know? Because you're looking back on your younger self from what you're from in the scenario that you're describing, and actually, you probably couldn't have been any different then. So
yes, correct.
So what is there that is making it compulsory? Because should has got a very peremptory, controlling kind of feel to it, you know, and that's actually I'm not sure that is very helpful.
So okay, I'm glad that you brought the should up, because my daughters say, Mom, you really need to stop saying should. That's great. Thanks for listening.
Okay, I'm your daughter for the day.
There you are. And I'm glad that you brought this up. So what I'm suggesting is, and let me talk around this, because this probably isn't going to make sense right at the moment. You've got this thought that keeps coming up. This thing, where you didn't act, or you think that you didn't act appropriately, or something happened to you. This thought of you keep holding yourself in judgment and in criticism, is to take a look at that thought take a look at that instance, because it happened. Take a look at that instance and look at what the reverse is of that, so that you can try and neutralize it, so that you can get to the place of forgiveness, describing who you were at that time, and then describing who you are now, the things that you've learned, the Is that better? I was intimidated in my divorce. I was intimidated by the judge.
Yeah,
and,
I can
right?
completely.
I was 23 years
that.
old. I was 23 years old. I had two kids. I had no education, young. Right?
Yeah.
And the attorney said, if this comes up, you need to say this. Well, that came up, and I was just, it's nothing. I had nothing up here.
Yes, I mean, it doesn't sound as though you had a very good attorney, actually. If I were you, I would concentrate not on forgiving yourself, but forgiving the attorney for doing a shit job.
No, you know what it was? It was forgiving the judge. Because
the judge was listening to what was said or not said.
Or not
said. Yeah. I mean, okay, the judge could have been more empathetic with a young woman.
So the judge had her own stuff going on.
Right. So now you've got two people to forgive rather than yourself.
Yes, and I absolutely. I went through this, and let me tell you, this took some time. I am not saying by any means that you're going to make a list and poof, everything's going to be like, oh, kumbaya, this is beautiful, I feel great. Or you're going to write a letter to that person, not mail it to them, a forgiveness letter to that person of what was the lesson that came out of this relationship. Like I did, yeah. I did so much of that with the judge. I knew that this was about her. This wasn't about me. What happened in the end was about her. It wasn't about me.
Yeah.
What as Rosemary said, she can say that for those of you that don't know her, because she's an attorney. What
was fun,
right? I mean,
I'm a recovering attorney too, Rosemary.
Yeah, I wasn't. To be fair, I wasn't a family law one. I did business. I steered clear of all the things where you had difficult things to do, like dealing with people's lives. I thought it was too hard. I really admire the people who do it well. It's very, very hard to get it right.
And do you ever really, like, how do you know if you ever really get it right? But anyway, it was this process that I had to go through of looking at myself. Now, I often say, I like to take myself out and look down at myself and go, who was I when I was 23 years old? Who was I when that happened? And if I can look at myself, the way that I was standing, what I was feeling in my body, like the thoughts, if I was having any, which I really wasn't, I was so insecure.
Yeah.
Like
you're just paralyzed with fright. I mean, courts are scary places. You know, there's all these officials and
they're smarter than I am. They're more schooled than I am. They have the answer. They have the answer. Like I didn't have any answers. Right? So that's how I felt at that time.
Yes.
That doesn't mean that now that my girls are 47, that I still need to hold on to what happened in the courtroom that day.
No.
Right? I'm not the same person. I'm actually really cool right now. I wasn't so cool back then because I was so
Yeah, you are really cool right now.
because I was afraid of my own shadow back then.
Yeah. Well, who isn't when they're very young like that?
Right? So does that mean that I need to that I need to be less than right now?
Yeah.
And if I don't release this stuff, if you don't release these thoughts, that's what you got. If you can view who you were when that whatever happened and look at yourself now without that, who are you without that story? Who would you be without that story? And I'm not saying that story didn't happen. I'm just saying, who would you be without it? What as holding on to that thought, that story, that instance, what has that done for you?
Well, actually, one way of looking at it would be to say, well, if I hadn't have gone through that and suffered that, then I wouldn't be the resilient person I am today because I wouldn't have had that experience to learn from.
Bravo.
I also think it probably made you very compassionate to people who are in a similar situation, whether it be in a courtroom with a divorce or just having that. I think things like that really teach you compassion.
You know what? This is why I do the work that I do, Sharon. This is why I can't be quiet. This is why at 66 years old, I have to keep doing this work because I didn't do it back then. And that
but you couldn't do it back then. You couldn't do it back then.
Exactly. Once I went through the process, once I figured this out, once I started down this path, now it's like this itch that won't go away for me. What is it?
But where does that bring you to the thing about forgiving yourself for what you should have done or whatever? I still don't quite get that, because actually, when you look back at yourself with compassion, you see that you couldn't have behaved otherwise because you didn't have the experience, that you didn't have you didn't have the ability to think in this different way about life events because you were too young and you hadn't had the right nurturing yourself, probably. So what is there to forgive?
because going through that and the ultimate outcome of what happened in the courtroom that day, I held on to for decades. The story that I told myself was that I was stupid, and that the judge knew something about me, and that's why the outcome was the way it was. That was the story I held on to for years, for decades. And it wasn't until I was able to take a look at the current relationship that I have with my daughters, which is amazing, and that realizing that the outcome that happened that day, they thought they had a great upbringing. And instead, I trash talked myself for decades because the outcome was that their dad had custody of them. And at 2 and 5, they're now 45 and 47. For decades, I told myself that I was less than, that I couldn't have been a good mother because the judge knew something. The judge knew that there was some deep, dark secret that I didn't even know about myself. So it wasn't until I was able to take a look at that and look at who I was at that time to be able to unscript that story of this really had nothing to do with me.
Yeah. I mean, now you've said it that way, I can understand it, because actually probably what it was just like a continuation, probably. I'm only guessing here. It's probably just like a continuation of messages that you'd been given previously in your life. So
Yes.
You interpreted it exactly the same way. So, some teacher said something, you got something wrong and you got told off, and it lingered, and that's what you thought.
Absolutely. Absolutely. The guidance counselor at high school told me I was never going to go to college. The principal, The principal told me I wasn't going to graduate with my class. Like, this was just like, oh, well, of course, of course there's the outcome because I'm stupid. I'm not worthy. I'm not lovable. And I held on to those stories for years. So I'm just suggesting, where are these stories that you're holding on to? Where did they come from? What do they feel like? And isn't it about time to release them? That's all I'm suggesting. Because at some point in time, this was interesting. So this clinical neuropsychologist, her name is Judy Ho, she categorizes, and I thought, oh, this might be interesting. So she categorizes with her client. She categorizes self-sabotaging thoughts. And so she feels that if she can get somebody to categorize, to put a label on their self-deprecating thoughts, that it's easier for her to work with them, to release them. So see if this works for you. So there are 4 categories, which it spells out life. Actually, it ends up spelling out life. But the first one is low self-esteem. And she suggested that you want to pick the one that most resonates with you, because you could be all of them, but the one that most resonates with you is where you want to like shove all the stuff, right? So that you can begin to forgive yourself and work on whatever that category is that you might fall into. So the first one is low self-esteem, not worthy, not good enough, I'm stupid. Which, even though I was the captain of the cheerleading squad and I was the president of Future Homemakers of America, if you can believe it or not, 3 husbands in, I was the president of Future Homemakers of America. I thought that I was stupid, not worthy, not lovable, hung around with all the bad boys because why would the good boys want me? That was the story. So low self-esteem. I internalize negative beliefs, where anytime something even good happens to you, you'll find a way to turn it internally into something stinky, into something that you really shouldn't have. And that you even though there are things in your life to celebrate, there's always this lurking story. F is for fear of the unknown.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Right? Fear of the unknown. Who am I without the story? Who am I without this thing? E, excessive need to control, which I thought was interesting because I didn't associate control with self-sabotaging thoughts or the need to forgive myself. But in actuality, if you take a look at control, it is that it's trying to make sure that everything goes as planned, that everything is in its place, that everybody's doing everything, even though they don't know what their expectations are, what the expectations are that you've placed on them because you haven't told them, because you're still going to control the situation. So is there for you, because I'm curious, is there for you one of these that you sit in that would be helpful for you to focus on in being able to forgive yourself? So low self-esteem, internalized negative beliefs, fear of the unknown, excessive needs of control. Why are you laughing, Rosemary?
Well, I'm just trying to fit life events into these categories.
I mean, I don't know. I just thought it was an interesting way to look at it.
Yeah, it is an interesting way to look at it. I suppose, right, okay, I could do two, I suppose. One was the low self-esteem, because I always thought that I wasn't going to be successful at school, but in fact, in the end, I was, and it was just manufactured self-doubt. And it was partly not because of what I did, but because of my dad telling my brother all the time that he was stupid. Well, that he wasn't good enough at school, put it that way. And so I felt if I wasn't good enough at school, I would get the same treatment, if you like. But in fact, I was always far more academic than my brother was. So it wasn't particularly difficult for me to be more academic and to be more academically successful. So it wasn't really a problem in the long run. But nevertheless, you still get left with the feeling that of the potential in my case, it was potential disapproval, if you like.
Yeah.
So that was one. And what was the other one? The other one was
fear
of the unknown. Yes, fear of the unknown.
Fear of the unknown.
That if you have quite a conservative, with a small c, family, then you do fear the unknown because you operate only out of the known. But actually, I've always been really adventurous and gone off. I'm about the only one in the family that ever did. So, you know.
And I've done the same thing. I'm the only one in my family that's ever moved out of even the town that we grew up in. Yeah. And I view myself as the black sheep. Right? Well, that's a story that I made. That's a story that I made up. No one in my family said that. That's a story that I made up.
Yes.
Right? So where are you making stuff up?
Yeah.
Like I have a really cool life, and sometimes it's difficult to share my life with my family because they can't like imagine it. They can't. So yeah. I hold myself back with what a cool life I have because I don't want to make them feel uncomfortable.
Yes, I completely go with that.
Right? Yeah. That's a story I made up.
Yeah.
So what story have you, what is the story that you've made up about yourself that you're holding yourself in place or holding yourself back because of your own self-deprecating thoughts? And if you could put them into one of these categories, would it help that you could work on one?
Well, I suppose that I'm thinking about myself. That this wasn't quite the version of forgiveness that I was thinking about when we were going to have this this discussion. I suppose. I mean, I actually I'm not worried about any of those things now because actually I've proved them all to myself, and I know that I can do this, that, or the other if I want to. Because I've already done them. So it just sounds very self-conceited, doesn't it? But actually,
I think you need to write an article about that, Rosemary.
So, because I have done lots of things and more than most. And yeah, so yeah, my version of what I would like to learn about forgiveness is somewhat different, because it's not really about myself. It is about myself, but it's from a different point of view. Because actually, what I found difficult was if somebody else does something to me, and I find it very difficult to forgive that person.
Yes, that is different, right?
It is different. It's
right.
It's looked at from the other point of view.
Yes.
And it's happened to me a couple of times, and I found it very difficult.
Yes. Yes. But in each instance,
and, you read stuff about toxic people, and you think, and so I say to myself, well, maybe they're just toxic, and they've always been ABC, and you didn't really like the ABC bit of them, but you like the other bit. And so now when there's more ABC come along, then maybe it's time to just say goodbye. But that doesn't actually stop you feeling sad or actually feeling hard done by.
But that's what
it's a different form of need for forgiveness altogether. Sorry,
yes.
I feel as though I'm changing the subject.
Well, you are a bit, because only because I've had just recently have had so many women writing me about how do I forgive myself for not achieving the things that I thought I was going to achieve, or not fulfilling some of the things that I have wanted to do. For when you take a look at forgiving someone else or something else, or whatever that other thing is that you need to forgive, I like to again take a look at myself outside. Who was I at that time, at that conversation, at the time of that conversation? Where were my boundaries?
Yeah.
Where were my boundaries? And it's okay to say no. No is actually a complete sentence. You don't have to, you don't have to tell a story. Like, I don't have to say, no, I can't do that for you because let's see, I have a dentist appointment and it's, day. And,
yeah.
Right. Yes. You can just say, no, that doesn't work for me, or no, or no, I won't do that, but I will do this. Especially as a grandmother, right? I'm not the kind of grandmother that's going to sit around for 40 hours a week and babysit the grandkids. That doesn't make me a bad person. No. I had to stop telling that story about myself because I chose to move away from my kids into a different country. Right? I had to. There was a lot of stuff that I had to let go of there. People are constantly saying to me, "How could you move away from your grandkids?" I'm a nicer person away from them because I'm living the life that I want to live.
Yeah.
That doesn't make me a bad person. It makes me actually a better grandmother because when I'm with them, I'm in joy instead of heaviness. God, I really.
And you're a better role model as well. I mean, having grandma around the corner doesn't necessarily mean that you're a good role model, because you might be very boring.
I totally
just down the corner all the time.
I totally would be. So if I'm looking at forgiving somebody else, it's who was I being at that time? Where were my boundaries? What is the vision that I have of my life, and why am I not fulfilling that? I think that a lot of forgiveness keeps coming back to us.
Yeah.
I'm holding somebody else in judgment, but in reality, it's I'm the one that's in control of saying no or yes. I'm the one that's in control of leaving the situation or not. And so where was I? Why didn't I stay true to my boundaries? Or maybe I haven't set them. Maybe maybe I just I just am flying by the seat of my pants. And I a lot of times I'll define myself. Well, I think I did this, Rosemary, on a call with you the other day, where I define myself as I'm a fly by the seat of my pants person. But I'm in reality, I have very strong boundaries now.
Yes.
I didn't back in the day.
You don't when you don't feel strong, do you?
Right?
Yeah.
So what could you do now today to define those boundaries for yourself and be okay with them, and that by defining those boundaries for yourself, then what can you then say, self, I get it. This is work that, wow, I kind of left on the table for a while, but I'm here now. And it's okay that I wasn't that person then. It's okay.
Yeah. Does anyone else? Anybody else got? What things of the life things resonate with you?
Control and fear. I think
fear of the unknown is a big one. I think for everybody,
right?
It's inherent in human nature.
Obsessive trying to control is a way to manage that fear, because if you think you do X, Y, and Z, that's going to protect you from the potential disasters that are out there.
Yeah.
And those are two things that kind of resonate with me, in terms of,
yes,
you don't have control is one thing that I've learned, because life comes along and slaps you in the face.
Doesn't ask you what you want. It just happens.
Right. And you can't control that.
No.
But I was the person that thought, well, if you studied enough and you did this and you did that and you crossed all these things off and you succeeded in all of this, nothing ever bad would happen in your life. And that was totally wrong. Okay. You could graduate third in your high school class. You could graduate summa cum laude from a college. You could go to law school. You could pass the bar in the first try.
Yep.
But you could stand in some ways, like Mary said, in a courtroom and say, what the fuck am I doing here? This is the unknown and I am not prepared for this. So I think that's, relying too much on, and I think Rosemary can understand this, of doing all the right things, doing all the checks, and it doesn't, you think, oh, when these things happen, I must have done something wrong. I should have been better prepared. I should have done this. I should have done that. And there's the should. I agree with your daughters. I think should kind of, is a big thing you should make boundaries about.
It's not a banned word.
My daughters have said, I want you to erase that word from your vocabulary.
Yeah.
Well, should was something that after my life fell apart and I started looking at it, people said, you are too controlled by shoulds. You need to set boundaries, and it's need, not should. I need this. It's not I should this.
Yeah.
There you go. Does that help anybody else? Yeah.
I think you described that very well.
Yeah. Yeah, that's great. Now, in going forward, what's one thing that you could see yourself doing to help you release some of the feelings that you have around these stories. And how do you think that might affect your life going forward?
Well, yeah. As I said, I don't really feel the need to do that anymore. So I don't think I'm a very good example. I can't come up with an example. I mean, there are instances in the past which I've gone, because like you, I've been divorced, and that was really tough time, and but I don't feel bad about it anymore. I don't really, it's just gone. It was a part. I don't actually regret getting married, because actually without it, I wouldn't have my children and all the good things that came out of it. So, it's kind of, I'm quite happy with it. So I can't think of an example.
Teresa, what about you?
Somebody else got an example.
I struggle right now with not cooking myself good meals. I mean, I still kind of stick to the gluten-free, but I love gluten-free cookies. And I'm feeling the effects of the extra tire around my waist, and, not walking as much because I'm uncomfortable. I was sitting on the ground painting, which I love to do for the furniture and stuff. And I had sciatica as bad as my post-surgical pain. And I thought, I'm getting fat and old and I'm not eating right. And so I'm trying to change that whole script and say, put more energy into, making the vegetables and eating right, so that I'm saying to myself, you feel better, instead of, I do tell myself, you suck as far as being a mother, but it's like, I just kind of put that back to my daughter, who's just like, you're an idiot. I'm like, yeah, get over it, So I'm still really struggling with setting boundaries with myself. I think I'm doing a little better with setting boundaries with the antics that my daughter has, and not feeling bad that her life is a disaster.
But
I don't know.
Can you? Because I think that as we age, that we also have to come up with a new view of what that looks like.
Right.
I don't know about you, but my parents, they, smoked and didn't exercise, and, all of, that was just the thing. In Poland, I see it's very vivid. A 66-year-old Polish woman does not look like me.
It's like chimneys
with the,
don't they?
Yeah.
All of Eastern Europe does.
Yeah. So I'm the one that has to build that new view. And when in that new view, do I get to say to myself, I love you?
Every time I eat a gluten-free cupcake.
You don't say it to the cupcake, Teresa. You say it to yourself.
I know. It's kind of like, I do savor the sweetness and the specialty of it, but I'm just like, if you ate half as much of that cupcake, you could lift the 4x8 sheet of plywood a little bit easier, which I'm doing some major renovations on a 125-year-old house, but struggling as the body is aging. And I know I really want to feel a little bit better than I am feeling. I have a lot of fatigue. So I'm playing with the renovations, but I'm not getting anything else done in my business, or, like laundry and cooking vegetables.
But listen, there in itself, for everybody that's here and for everyone that's going to listen to this recording afterwards, there in itself is a story. Right? There in itself is a story. And that story needs to be looked at, because that's a story that Teresa is making up. Just like, what is the story that you're making up? So these thoughts that we have come up very quick. And if you don't take the time to notice them, you then hold on to that story. It isn't until we notice it that we then get to do something about it. And then, so what is that thing that you can do to change that thought, or to change that story? That's why the T exercise works really well, where you put that thought down, you look at that thought and go, shit, where did that thought come from? Like, that came up really quick. And what is it that I need to learn about that story? Because if I don't learn something about that story, then it's trust me, it's going to keep coming back. It's going to keep
coming back. What I have learned from those things that keep repeating itself is that I spend way too much time stuck in the left side of the column. And it has helped me to say, okay, I'm recognizing this, and I'm just going to walk over here and I'm going to wash out a paintbrush. And then I kind of go off and be like happier rather than grumble and get angry. So it definitely is a lot less stuff consuming me, but I still don't have the energy that I really feel like I need.
And once you keep noticing that and figure out what your next right thought is, what your next better feeling thought is, then you'll keep eating the cupcake. Right? We're going to keep eating the cupcake. It doesn't matter. The cupcake is just a visual. It's a symbol. It's a visual, right? You're going to keep eating the cupcake until you get to the point where you say, this cupcake has the lesson. And until I'm ready to learn the lesson, then I'm going to keep eating the cupcake. What does the cupcake have to teach me?
Can you look at the cupcake and say, I don't like cupcakes? And then you look at the carrot and say, carrots are great because I can eat them and feel great, and I don't have to cook them.
Yeah, every time I go to Home Depot, which is practically 3 or 4 times a week, there's Reese's peanut butter cups, which are just like cupcakes. And I'm usually like, oh, it takes 2 Reese's peanut butter cups to do this massive project. And when I think of it, okay, it's not that many calories, but I've made some changes. So, I haven't gained any weight. But
I mean, congratulate yourself.
Congratulate yourself on that, because that's really difficult, actually.
Right.
Most people gain it back.
Yeah, and I did install PEX pipe. Is that plastic pipe for your almost plumbing in a 125-year-old house?
Yeah, you did. You've done a lot.
I think you've done amazingly. I've seen your stuff on Facebook as well.
Yeah.
And, occasionally I write you messages, I think, Teresa.
Yeah.
And it's because I'm always admiring of what you do.
Yeah. I mean, the hard part is, with my daughter and her mental illness and her other issues, the support in the community is just like, you're just kind of enabling her. And and that's a real struggle. So it's kind of like me stepping away so that I can have a separate life, my life that I want.
Yeah.
And be consistently available to me and my life, and not be worrying that, oh my God, there might be an emergency. I mean, I come home and at least once or twice a week, there's like 4 cop cars here. And I'm like, this is like nuts. like literally nuts. And it's not always her, it's a person she knows, or there's like a hit and run in the neighborhood and they're like searching my house. And I'm like, okay. And I'm just like,
It's
and
that's
I'm
hard.
taking it in stride, you know, and I'm like, I'm not like, oh my gosh, look what's happening again. It's just like, whatever. Hi, how are you doing, officer? Um, so I think I've kind of overcome that and not bought into that drama. But and
That's been a big one in itself.
It
That's
has.
amazing. That's amazing
Yeah.
that you can take that. I mean, most people freak out if they see lots of police cars and things.
I'm just like, nice dog.
So listen, going forward, I want to give you some things to think about this week, is that taking these thoughts that you have about yourself, that if you were able to forgive yourself for these thoughts, if you could take a look at these thoughts and label them as like a person or a thing. You know, they could be a wolf attacking you. It could be, like you watched a movie and there's a villain. It could be, like that character. So that when these thoughts arise, you have a visual of it, because these thoughts, you feel them in your body someplace, and if you can attach it to something, then it will help you to more readily grab a hold of these thoughts, so that then you can notice it and then move on to the next right move for you at that time. So the questions are: track the people over this next week, track the people, places, and things. And what is it about them or it that energizes you? So when you think about the people that are in your life, or the places that you like to go to, or the places that you go to because, you're with somebody else and you go there and you're like, oh, Jesus, I can't believe I said yes to this. Or the things that you have in your life. It could be stuff in your closet, for instance, right? What is the stuff that's in your closet that energizes you? What is the stuff that's in your closet that when you put it on, you feel like sexy, hot, gorgeous, deserving? Now, take a look at the opposite of that. Who are the people, the places, and the things that are in your life that drain you? And this is only for you. I'm not, you don't need to share this with anybody. This is only for you. Who and what, like, where do you go that you're like, oh, I wish I never came here. Like, what are the things, what's in your closet that you need to donate? And maybe you should do that this week. Second question: what do you get triggered by? What does somebody say? Is there a place that you go to that brings back some bad memories? Is it something that you eat, maybe, that, you're like, oh, I had this dinner with and then we got in an argument, and then la, 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 la. What sets you off into confusion or sorrow or rage? What do you get triggered by? What's the notice? Or where does it show up in your body? How does it feel? Number 3, and you're going to have this in the recording so that you'll be able to get this. It will be at the hour mark, because we're now going a little bit over. Question number 3: what things can you control? What things in your life do you really have control over? And you might want to take a look at the things that relate to you? What are the things that you can't control? Ultimately, other people. All I'm accountable for is myself. So what can you control? And still within that, there's going to be things that you cannot control. Question number 4. What would your friends say about you? If your friend was going to introduce you to somebody else, what is it that they would say about you? They're not going to say, "Hey, this is my friend Rosemary, and you know, I don't know why I actually hang around her because she." Right? That's not what your friend is going to say about you. Right? So what is your friend going to say about you? Or, and I say this a lot in my workshops, is pick 5 people that are your friends, not family, because family, that gets into touchy stuff. Go to your cheerleaders. Go to your cheerleaders and ask them one word of how they would describe you. And make that your personal mission statement. Oh, we have somebody that's coming in right now. She must have gotten the time wrong. Okay, Yukimi, I'll see you. I'll send out the recording tomorrow. So, what would your friends say about you? Generally in one word. Hello, Eva. You got the time wrong. We're just wrapping up. But you're going to get but you're going to get the recording. Are you in Poland? Oh, you're on mute.
You're muted.
You're mute. You're muted. Eva, you're muted.
I tried to join the meeting next week, so that's why it didn't work. So I apologize.
Okay, no worries. No worries.
But I'll be happy to join from next week. I'll get it right next week. Sorry.
No worries. You'll get the recording anyway. So
great. Thank you, Mary. Happy to hear you and see you.
Yes. Are you in Poland?
Yes, I am. I am, of course. Yes. So hello, everyone.
Hello.
Okay, so what would your friends say about you? And can you believe it? Do you believe what they say about you? Like, I say this also in some of my workshops, where when I interviewed the people and I asked them, I interviewed 10 people and I said, you got one word. And the number one word that kept repeating itself was that I was brave. And that was
midlife.
That was where the website came from, because I didn't view myself as brave. There wasn't one iota of anything in my body that believed that I was brave until I wrote about it. I took that word and I dissected what I viewed brave to be, because brave to me was this big, strong man and in metal and armor and riding a horse, and that was brave to me. So nowhere in there.
I've always thought that Teresa's brave, from what I've seen her doing.
Yes.
So there you go, Teresa.
Right? So what is that word? And do you believe it? And if you don't believe it, write about it. Did you raise your hand, Sharon? Or are you just, okay. And then number 5, what's the most recent compliment that somebody has given you? Or if you can't think of one, what's a compliment that somebody gave you that you were surprised about? Or that you didn't believe? at that time? And better yet, that you didn't accept. That you were like, oh, this old thing. Oh, this. Take a look at being deserving of living this life without this baggage. We're gonna drop the luggage this week. Can you drop the luggage? And what does it feel like? Who are you without the baggage? And it's interesting because when I travel, my goal is to travel without any baggage, without a bag. That's my goal. So I shrink down my luggage every time I travel. And I think that for me, it's like this metaphor of I just keep releasing more and more. I've been on this trip now. I've been in America now for 2 weeks. And I've worn the same pair of yoga pants and the same pair of jeans for 2 weeks. So do I need to bring 3 or 4 other pair? Do I need that? What is it about me bringing those? This is my stuff. Mind you, I'm not telling you that you don't need that you should travel with stuff, right? But this is how I think about this, right? Am I bringing those things for other people? Or am I bringing those things because I actually need a change of clothes? Right? Everywhere I'm going has a washer and dryer. So am I bringing those things for other people, or am I bringing them because for me? So it's like, when you look at your life, what is it that is no longer serving you? How do you get triggered by it? How can you recognize it? What about your life energizes you? What about your life drains you? What do you have control over? What don't you have control over? And what is the one word that your friends would say about you that you are going to work on believing and using that word as your own? Like Rosemary pointed out, I actually named my website after the word that scared the shit out of me. Because I needed to embrace it. I am not telling you to go and name your website or build a website about a word that scares the shit out of you. That is not what I'm saying. I am just saying that that was what I needed to do for me. It didn't have anything to do with anybody else. I was like, this needs to be part of me. What is it that needs to be part of you? I hope this was helpful for you. I hope that some of these things that we talked about, we certainly are not going to, cure the world, or, it's a start. We're just starting. Sharon, I just noticed you unmuted yourself.
I was just going to say thank you.
You're welcome. Good. So this is a work in progress. We are a work in progress. We're never one and done. Just like if you have a business, your website is never done, one and done. You are never one and done. Every day is an FFT. And for those of you that don't know what an FFT is, it's for the fucking first time. When you put your feet on the ground, when you get out of bed every single morning, you are doing that for the fucking first time. You weren't there yesterday. You can only be there right now, today, right here in the present moment. That's all we've got. That's all we've got. So be there. I'll have the recording out to you tomorrow. It will be up on it transfers you over to the YouTube because that's where all the videos are. And I will attach flip the script in the email so that you'll have it. Again, you don't need it. It's really just a T form. Right side is crap thinking. Left side is crap thinking. Right side is what you want the thought to be. What's the news story?
What about the Facebook? I registered for that, but I didn't hear anything about it.
You should. I think that I accepted you yesterday, Laura Lee. I think that I did, but let me go back and check that.
That's okay. So in other words, I can talk to Rosemary. I can talk to you.
Yes.
Okay, because I've never been on Facebook.
Okay. You go right into when you get into Facebook, you type in "Good Morning Midlife," and that will, when you see that come up, it'll take you. You press on that, it will take you right into the group. The group is private. It's safe. Everybody gets vetted. Everybody has to answer questions in order to get in there. So there's nobody in there that shouldn't be in there. There's nobody in there snooping around doing weird stuff. So if you want to have a conversation with somebody, if you want to message somebody in the group, you can. If you want to put something out in the group that you're struggling with, if you want to put something out in the group that's a win for you, you can do that also. It's there for us to experiment. It's there for us to grow into this next best version of ourselves. Okay.
And Lorelei, I'd love to hear from you on the group.
Awesome. Thanks, Rosemary. Ladies, thanks for showing up. Ava, check your email tomorrow. You'll get the recording.
And thank you very much, as always, Mary.
Thank you, Mary.
Thank
you.
We want you to stand up and show us your jeans or your yoga pants.
My yoga pants? You want to see my yoga pants?
Yes.
Cool. I like your top.
No, these actually are the best yoga pants I've ever had. I ordered them on Nordstrom, and they have pockets right here. They don't have pockets on the side, which make my hips look big, I think. I've got my pockets right here. So anyway.
Terrific.
And no one cares here. And you know what? If they did care that I have on the same pair of yoga pants that I've had on for the past 3 days, then they're not my people. Right? They're just not my people. And that's okay. Not everyone has to be my people. Not everyone has to be your people. It's okay to let them go.
So, Lorelei, I look forward to seeing you in yoga pants next time.
All right, ladies.
I'll wear yoga pants too.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thanks, ladies.
Lovely.
I'll see you next week's conversation. Let's see. Let me look at
what's it going to be?
Next week's conversation is the FFT. We're going to try something for the fucking first time next week. All right, ladies. I'll see you.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.